Belly fat makes you dumber. Yes, there was a recent study in 2025 where scientists and researchers they studied the connection between belly fat and your brain health. And they found that the more belly fat you have, the worse your brain health was. The faster your brain declined, the faster your brain degenerated, the faster your brain shrunk. So your belly got bigger, but your brain is shrinking. That's what they found. They measure this through using an MRI, which is super cool, right? So, and on the opposite, these people through a program, a lifestyle program, natural program, not medications, not supplements, a lifestyle program. And this is what they found also. They found that when these people reduced their belly fat, their brain got bigger. Their brain degenerated slower. So they got almost smarter, or at least they retained their intelligence. They retained their mental acuity. Now, I'm using the word dumber for a reason, dumb for a reason. I'm not saying people are dumb. I'm saying it's another word of saying cognitive decline, right? But not everybody understands what cognitive decline means. And that's so general, so vague. That's why I'm using the word dumber. So if we don't want to get dumber, we need to decrease our belly fat. And specifically, the scientific word for belly fat is visceral adipose tissue, VAT. Again, I'm using words. When you watch my channel, you're going to realize I use simple words because I believe health is very simple. A lot of times in science, we use these big words to complicate matters and to confuse people. What happens when people are confused is they start to bicker, they start to fight. They're going to say, oh, you're wrong, your research is wrong, oh, what you're saying is wrong, okay? I like to keep things simple. And I like to talk about things that I've actually done or I've helped our patients in our clinic do. So the information, the study I'm going to go over today is not my opinion. I'm going to go over the study and I'll put some little insights into what I believe or what we do in our clinic that may be the same, may prove this research to be correct, or it may be different. Doesn't mean it proves this research to be incorrect. It may mean we're just different, right? But let's dive in. So this was a study done, like I said, in July of 2025, and it is sustained visceral fat loss is associated with attenuated brain atrophy, shrinkage, and improved cognitive function in late midlife. Attenuated means slow down, right? Proves my point. Science likes to use these big words. And so for the normal people like myself, and maybe in all of our patients, many of our patients, they appreciate that I can explain things in layman's terms, in common terminology, not to confuse them, but more in a language that they can understand. So sustained visceral fat loss. So when we lose, so this study is about when you consistently focus on losing belly fat. Okay, visceral fat loss is fat around your organs. Where are a majority of your organs, right? They're in your abdomen. So when you are able to continuously, not just in a 3-month period, this is sustained and it lasts, right? So it's not in a 3-month period you lose your belly fat and then 6 months later it comes right back. That's not what this means. This means you keep your belly fat lower, belly fat percentage to a low percentage. Okay. You don't want to eliminate 100% belly fat because belly fat has some structural help that it does support your organs and so forth. It supports, it saved energy when you need it. Okay. But sustained visceral fat loss. So a sustained lower belly fat, a smaller belly in general, not a six pack, okay? Six pack actually is not very good for you, exposed six pack, but sustained, just a little, maybe just a little pooch. A little pooch is okay, all right? But little belly, it's associated with slower brain shrinkage. As we get bigger, our brain shrinks. That's why we get dumber, okay? So we need to do things to prevent our brains from shrinking. If you shrink your belly, then it will prevent your brain from shrinking. And it will make you smarter. That's improved cognitive function. Cognitive is brain, right? Intelligence, all of this, acuity, memory, all of this. It can help you. Okay. Before I continue, I got to give you my disclaimer. Otherwise, Google or YouTube will shut this channel down. And I am not a physician. I was not trained in to prescribe medication. I was not trained to do surgeries. I was not trained in acute emergency medicine. That's not what I'm trained in to do. I was trained in traditional Chinese medicine, nutrition, herbs. I was trained in restorative longevity, restorative care. Okay. I was trained in how to help people restore their body's natural ability to heal itself, their God-given ability to heal itself so that they can do the things they love to do. Okay. I don't do any healing. My team doesn't do any healing. We help our patients. We help people. We help people's body heal itself. That's what I was trained in. Okay. But let's go back to the article. So this study was done with 533 adults. Average age was 61 years old, 86% men, because 10 men tend to have the beer belly gut, right? Which is, again, this proves that having that beer belly is not a good thing, right? From 4 prior 18 to 20-month lifestyle randomized. So they went through like an 18-month lifestyle program, changing their diet, exercise, and so forth. This is a randomized clinical trial. So they MRI'd their abdomen and their brain with an MRI. How cool is that? And they also use a Montreal cognitive assessment, testing 5 to 16 years after intervention. Okay. And so VAT, visceral adipose tissue, right here. Visceral. So just when you see the word VAT, just think of belly fat. Okay. Belly fat. So this is what they found. Belly fat, so belly fat loss during the intervention predicted higher brain volumes at follow-up, independent of weight loss. So there's a difference. This study separated belly fat loss versus overall body weight loss. Very different. And their study showed that overall weight loss did not improve their brain health. It didn't make them smarter. Okay. A key when you're talking about weight loss, it has to be belly fat, has to be visceral adipose. It's not necessarily, okay, belly fat is probably not the exact technical term, okay, but I'm just using it so you understand. It's fat around your organs. That visceral means organs. So it's the fat around your organs. Again, but most of our organs are in our belly. So that's why I'm using the term belly fat, okay? So for those of y'all who have to be scientifically correct, you're not going to like my channel, okay? But for those of you who just are focused on results, how do I get results? What does this mean in general terms, in layman's terms, where I can understand and I can explain it to my daughter, my son, my grandparents, right? Then you are in the right channel because I keep it real, all right? So belly fat or abdominal fat, when you decrease your abdominal fat, you increase your brain volume, which you improve your intelligence, right? There's a saying, our intestines, our gut is our second brain. And so it's almost like you got to shrink your second brain, your gut brain, the fat around your gut brain, in order to make your head brain more intelligent. They also found improved glycemic control parameters rather than lipid or inflammatory markers were mostly related to favorable longitudinal brain outcomes. So what does that mean? All right, let me break it down for you. Sugar. They found that sugar, controlling sugar levels within your bloodstream, sugar levels, insulin sensitivity, right? That was more important than cholesterol or inflammatory markers. So inflammatory markers, CRP, that's a common one. ESR, right? That's another one. These are common inflammatory markers. Lipid is cholesterol, high cholesterol, triglycerides. This study specifically found that sugar markers, blood glucose markers, were more correlated to your brain health. Okay. So the follow-up MRI study suggests that sustained visceral fat loss rather than weight loss is linked to better cognition and attenuation of brain atrophy years later, mainly via improved glycemic control. So they MRI'd the abdomen, they MRI'd the brain of these 533 participants, and they found out, like I said earlier, it's the fat around your organs that matters more than overall fat on your whole body. And in regards to brain health, cognition is your mental acuity, your intelligence, right? Brain atrophy means your brain is shrinking. So they found that it's more important to regulate the sugar control versus looking at the lipids and inflammatory markers. So this MRI assessed belly fat, or VAT, and brain measures over long-term interventions and follow-up suggests that sustained. They use the word sustained a lot. So this is key because there's so many weight loss fad diets. Every year there's something new, right? And the problem with all of them, here's the thing, they all work, but they all don't work. So how is that possible? They all work to help you lose weight, but they all don't help you have sustained weight loss, sustained reduction, and especially what you do to lose weight for your overall body versus what you do to lose weight for your visceral, your belly fat. Sometimes the key points are actually very different. Okay. So, because even this study says independent of weight loss. So, what you do to lose your belly fat is more important. And all these weight loss diets, all these weight loss fads, whether it's peptide, stem cells, medication, they do not create a sustained belly fat loss. None of them do. And how do I know that? Just stop doing it. So if you're injecting the GLP-1 peptides, just stop doing it and see if you have a sustained reduction in belly fat loss. 6 months later, your belly is going to come right back, maybe even twice the size. That's why I love this study. This study was not done using any of those gimmicks. I call them gimmicks. They're fads. There's different words, fads, gimmicks, right? Now, I'm not saying they don't work and I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying if your goal is sustained belly fat loss, why would this study use just lifestyle changes, dietary changes? So you might want to think about that. So you can, by shrinking your belly fat, you can actually improve your intelligence. You can make yourself smarter. How cool is that? It enhances cognitive function across a span of up to 10 years. By just shrinking your belly, you can make yourself smarter for 10 years. Okay. Our findings demonstrate that long-term exposure to higher visceral adiposity, so bigger belly fat, is associated with both accelerated brain atrophy and lower cognitive performance. So the bigger your belly, the faster your brain shrunk, the worse your brain health was, the worse your brain function, the dumber you got. That's why I say cognitive performance dumber, right? If you did something that would keep your belly fat low, you would achieve through lifestyle interventions. They didn't do it for medications, GLP-1, peptides, supplements, fad diets. It predicts preserved brain structure and cognition in later midlife. So it is absolutely false. As we get older, we get dumber. And there may be research to prove that that is true, but this is what we see in our clinic after treating thousands of patients, right? We didn't do a study in our clinic for belly fat, but I think if I go back and look, I would suspect that this study would be the same as what we have observed in clinic in practice. What we have learned in our practice is that when we help our patients restore their organs' functions, their organs are able to function by themselves independently and heal, that they start noticing what we call side benefits, not side effects. And the side benefits are, man, my brain's just clear. I can sleep better. I'm performing better at work. I'm performing better at school. I'm performing better at sports. I'm just able to remember things now, has improved. That's what we have noticed in our clinic. Okay. So let me just repeat, because it's super important. Decrease your belly fat, your visceral adipose tissue, the fat around your organs, and that will increase your intelligence, increase your brain health. Not just intelligence, because what does your brain control? Your brain is the CPU, central processing unit of your whole body. It controls your whole body, right? So you can improve your whole body's function just by reducing your visceral, your belly fat. Wow. That's just like a cause and effect. The doctors like to say, oh, you can't do that. You can't, genetics, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's not of your control. But these studies are showing, no, these are under your control. Belly fat is 100% under your control. It's what you put in your mouth. It's how you live your life. It's 100%. Why are the areas of the world where there's a lot of farming, there's a lot of agriculture, planting farmers, and I'm talking about the ones that don't use the heavy machinery. Like here in the US, farming has become just all machines, right? Farmers are just sitting on a tractor or sitting on a machine. They're not really going in and digging and stuff. But if you look at hundreds of years ago, when the farmers had to dig, even with animals, you had to plow, it was still hard work. You never saw a belly fat problem in those societies, in those cultures, right? And we still have some here in the US. You just don't see them, right? So that's why I'm saying belly fat is 100% under our control. Now, this study did say the study has several limitations, which I love because no study is 100% accurate. And when a study claims that they're 100% accurate, I would steer away from that study. I don't care how double blind, you can triple blind your study. It could be randomized to the wazoo. It will not be a perfect study. No study will be, right? So I love that they bring that out and they list all the limitations, right? So I'm sharing this with you to give you more information, not to live by this, right? We don't live by research. We look at the way myself and my team, the way we treat our patients and get phenomenal results, right? Is that we take these information and we process this information and we apply it. We test it out. We don't just believe it, right? I test out a lot of things, right? So, like, for example, belly fat. I've got some belly fat. Okay. It's not huge, right? I'm about 50 years old. And when you measure your belly fat, you can just your pant size, right? My pant size right now is about a 31, right? I would like it to be around 29, but many people, many men around 50, their waistline is in the 40s. But I'm not comparing myself to other people, right? Mine's at 31. I would like to be a little smarter. So I'm working on decreasing it to 29. But here's the thing. I love to eat. So I know I'm contributing to my belly fat because I love to eat. I'm a foodie. I love to eat everything, right? But I'm also a TCM practitioner. So I know I don't overindulge, but I still have those weaknesses for certain foods, right? So nevertheless, within the abdominal adipose deposits assessed here, belly fat consistently shows stronger associations with brain atrophy and cognitive performance than superficial or deep subcutaneous fat, supporting a distinct role for visceral fat in the adipose brain axis. So the fat around your organs function differently from the fat from the rest of your body. That's basically what it says. Okay. And they found that BMI, because most people, when they're trying to lose weight, they're like, oh, what's your BMI? Showed no significant associations with brain structure. So if you want to try to get smarter and get your body to function, I would say it's not even about intelligence, because I just said our brain is our CPU. And if you have other problems, you have fibromyalgia, you have neuropathy, that's because you have a brain circuitry problem, because the brain is not connected, or you have a connection problem. They are not connected to the rest of your body. In order to have better connection, you need your brain to function better. You need your brain to be smarter so it can function better. It can heal your body by itself, right? The problem with, especially in Western culture, is we use medications to numb our brain. Numbing our brain is the worst thing you can do to your body because it will cause severe side effects that were not even related to the original problem that you took the medication for. We have seen too many patients, thousands of patients come to our clinic. Our clinic is usually the last resort for many people. They've gone to every specialist, they've gone to chiropractors, they've gone to physical therapists, they've gone to even other acupuncturists, not gotten the results, and then they come to us. And a lot of times they have a bucket of pills. They bring in a bucket of pills to our clinic to their initial exam. And those pills, some of them are on 10, 15 medications, all right? And some of them are on 20 different supplements and that they take every day. So I'm not saying supplements are bad. We prescribe supplements in our clinic as well. But the key for everything, for whatever you use, shouldn't it be to make your own brain function better, to make your patient's brain function better, the other people's brain, right? That, at least that's our philosophy. It may be different from other clinics, but I just want to share what we do, right? So belly fat is metabolically active depot that secretes pro-inflammatory cytokines, promoting chronic low-grade systemic inflammation. So it operates differently from your other fat. Where fat around your organs, visceral fat, okay, I'll say visceral fat, around your organs, they secrete things, chemicals that increase inflammation and causes, right here, chronic low-grade systemic inflammation. Inflammation is this: when your body is damaged, your brain will turn on acute inflammation to send your healing troops to the area to heal the organs. Okay. When it becomes chronic inflammation, that is a retention of toxins, of waste. That means your brain sent the ambulance, sent the paramedics, sent the doctors to the area, right? They fixed the problem, but they didn't leave. They didn't go back home. They just stayed there. It's almost like a homeless encampment, right? They made that new area their home. Well, they eat, they poop, so they just make a mess, and they were there originally to help you. Now they're generating a mess, right? I like to say it's chronic inflammation is like retention of toxins. This state can induce neuroinflammation, inflammation of your nerves, right? See, is this all making sense? I hope so. It disrupts your blood-brain barrier integrity and impairs synaptic plasticity and neuronal survival. So it dulls your brain down. It prevents your brain from functioning. It prevents your nerves from functioning. Our whole body, our brain and the rest of our body communicates through nerve pathways, right? In Chinese medicine, thousands of years ago, they didn't have the word nerve, so they used the word meridians, right? And in my clinic, we interpret that as nerve pathways, okay? Other Chinese medicine acupuncturists do not think nerves are meridians, okay? I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying what we do in our clinic that gets great results. So if you have chronic inflammation, it's going to damage your nerve pathways, your meridians, your nerve pathways. It's going to cause a lot of problems, right? So the visceral fat is closely linked to insulin resistance and vascular dysfunction, which contributes to impaired cerebral perfusion, microvascular damage, and reduced clearance of neurotoxic proteins such as beta amyloid, which causes plaques in your spine. So multiple sclerosis, ever heard of that? MS? So belly fat is linked to insulin resistance and vascular dysfunction. So if you have circulation problems, the belly fat's going to make it even worse. It's going to make the circulation to your brain even worse. Microvascular damage. Microvascular, little vascular means little arteries, little veins. Where are they? They're in your fingers, your eyeballs, your kidneys. That's why people who have diabetes, they get neuropathy in their hands and feet. They get kidney damage. They get eye problems because those are where all the little microvascular networks are. And reduced clearance of neurotoxic proteins. We eliminate waste through our blood circulation. We get nutrition and eliminate our waste through our circulatory system. This is why acupuncture is so effective. Acupuncture is one of the best tools to increase blood circulation to anywhere in your body. So we conducted a sensitivity analysis, examined baseline glycemic, lipid. This is just showing that, hey, the best two markers that they looked at to gauge your belly fat, your visceral fat, the fat around your organs, is your fasting glucose and hemoglobin A1C, right? Summarize. Hopefully this was insightful for you. It lets you know that we have control, 100% control of our belly fat, of our visceral fat. And we can actually improve our intelligence. We can improve our brain functioning. We can improve our brain health to heal other problems. Maybe you have an autoimmune disease. Well, if you have an autoimmune disease and you have a big belly, then work on decreasing that visceral fat. Here's the thing. That's what we do in our clinic. Like someone's coming in for neuropathy, right? We don't say, hey, we're going to help you lose weight. We help our patients restore their organ functions, because the reason why you have fat around your belly, one is the insulin resistance. From Western medicine, right now, research is very limited. They can only determine that it is from insulin resistance. But from Chinese medicine and also from my restorative longevity care, we have found that when an organ in your body is dysfunctioning, your brain is going to be programmed to protect it by surrounding it with fat. Now, some fat is for structural, it helps hold your organs in place, but others is for protection, right? So if you don't help that organ restore its function, your brain will always try to protect it and never release that visceral fat or that belly fat. So what's the solution? Fix that organ. That's what we do in our clinic. We find which organs are dysfunctioning and we help it heal. Once it heals, guess what? The brain can say, I don't need to help protecting you. I can release it. And so therefore they lose belly fat. But we were treating their neuropathy. We weren't treating them for weight loss. That's what we do in our clinic. Now, you may say, okay, how can I measure my belly? What do they mean by belly fat? The common way is your waistline, right? From your belly button. Okay. So go to your belly button and get a measuring tape and measure it, right? I think there's some statistics about if you're this age, your belly should not be more than this, right? I'll find that statistic and maybe do a video on this later. But whether those are accurate or not, who knows, right? But one thing's for sure, if your belly is protruding like a basketball, you got a little problem, or maybe a little pillow, right? You got some visceral fat that you need to get rid of. One thing that we do that's really cool, we love technology in our clinic. We have a 3D body scan, and it's an infrared 3D body scan, and it can scan and show you the size and where you are having that adipose tissue. Is it lower in the pooch, right? Or is it up higher, right? But you can also measure it yourself. Measure different parts of your belly. Measure that, and then get on a natural lifestyle change, dietary change, not on some injection. Because if you want to have sustained, remember I highlighted in the article, if you want sustained visceral body fat loss and sustained increased intelligence, you got to do something that you're going to do for the rest of your life. It's got to be consistent. And I've talked about, I'm not going to go deep into this, but I'll give you a little clue for future weight loss trainings I'll do. One thing we have our patients do quite a bit is intermittent fasting or time restricted fasting. Same thing. There's different ways of doing it. Is there one perfect way? No. Everybody's body is different. But intermittent fasting, you can start with a basic 8-16, eat within an 8-hour window, fast for 16 hours, right, which includes your sleep, right? That's a basic. You can adjust it based on what you need, but work with a practitioner. If you've got some chronic, severe degenerative health disorders, you're on tons of medications or tons of supplements, work with someone. Don't try to do this yourself. But the key is I want to leave you with is everything is under our control. Our intelligence is even under our control. We just got to get rid of this little pooch down here, and we can make ourselves more intelligent up here.